Wizards, sorcerers, the Herbwise, these titles that show up again and again in our lore and in our traditions and in our lifeways and our practices. So, what does it all mean? This is a huge topic. There are aspects of this that sort of entail some information that is not going to be very popular with people. Maybe we'll save that for a different class so we can really blow it open. But in this particular video, I want to explore the human people behind the titles. What does it look like when these positions are embodied by a human person? What does it look like both traditionally and in the here and now when folks are walking this path and living this path? And we're going to sort of break this down into three specific aspects, but they're three among many. So know that this is a big conversation with a lot of angles and nuances that can differ by culture and tradition and time and place. But these are the three things that I think, in my opinion, my personal opinion, go without saying. Like, these are the three things that should always be in place regardless of who, what, when, where, why, and how. They are, first of all, the title being awarded. Second of all, the embodiment or the talk being walked, as we might say. And third, the relationships of power. So let's look at the job title. And this is the part of it where, a lot of people get frustrated. And this is where usually if there's contention around this topic, this is where it comes from, that wizard, sorcerer, herbalist, herbwise, midwife, peller, work hunter, witch, whatever, they're job titles. End of story. They're job titles in the same way that most of the proper noun names of our old deities are job titles. And so the main way that this is embodied is that the person who has that title of, sorcerer or herbalist or herbwise or whatever, they're actually doing that job. That is the service they are providing to their community, generally as a primary means of their personal expression. It's kind of the path they're on and the space they hold. In the modern world, we have to make a lot of sort of adjustments because we don't all live in cultures that support this work. So lots of folks, it's a side hustle, they have a day job and then they do the thing they're passionate about and they're called to as sort of on the side. For some of us, we're lucky enough that this is, the community has built up around us in a way that we're able to do this work all the time. And that's really like more aligned to the traditional ways. But the important thing is that these titles are job titles. They're job descriptions. And they let people know what you're adept at, what you're expert at. We never say mastery, but we do say expertise, competence, and confidence, right? So when somebody presents themselves to you as a mechanic, you have an understanding that this person not only knows a lot about cars and has a lot of experience working on cars, but is actively engaged as part of their role in the community in fixing, servicing, maintaining cars. If somebody says, I'm a farmer, we understand they know a lot about plants, they know a lot about soil and microbiome and seasonal shifts, but also that they are putting their hands in the dirt day after day and growing food to serve the community. And similarly, when somebody presents themselves as herbwise or herbalist or midwife or sorcerer or whatever, the assumption is that that is what that person does. They embody the wisdom, they've done the work, the study, the experience, the mentorship, the initiations, and they are providing services of that role to their community. So I think that's an interesting place to start because it reminds us that all of us have something really beautiful to contribute to our community, to the place where the light of our campfire reaches, that we will all kind of embody different sets of virtues and skills and experiences and challenges and struggles that make us who we are and allow us to bring our gifts to the table in service of the greater good. And so these job titles are shortcuts that help us understand kind of what somebody's about. So that's one aspect. The other aspect is walking the talk, right? That we don't expect to come to these titles overnight. It's not a weekend workshop. It's not a year-long, program. It's years and years and years of study and dedication, experience, trial and error, successes, failures, injuries. I always say herbalism is a verb and it's a contact sport. That all of the doing, all of the getting out of the head, closing the books, turning off the computer, the doing is what puts it into our bones. It's what puts it into our blood, and it's what makes it embodied within us. So that instead of it being sort of something that we do or a tool that we use, it's something that we are. It's a wisdom that we carry. It's that whenever we are in a space, that power is in the space with us. That we don't clock out of herbalism. We don't clock out of sorcery, right? It's too ingrained within the personhood of self to be something that is kind of an off-on switch. So we always want to consider the path, and it's going to be different for everybody. It's different in different traditions and different cultures and different, religions even. So there's no one way to define what embodiment looks like or how it's done, but that it has to happen, I think, is a surety. Like we definitely have to embody. So part of these people, these wizards and sorcerers and herbwise, have done a lot of work. They've done a lot of study and experimentation and have a lot of experience that brings them to this place of kind of reckoning with the fact that they are who they are. It's a process very much of self-discovery. Third, relationships. The people who hold these traditions that carry this work are folks who have put an incredible amount of time and effort and energy into cultivating and nourishing relationships across the hedge. Relationships of otherness, relationships with non-human, other than human, more than human persons. They are constantly maintaining an imaginal garden of relationship and making sure that all of the allies and the familiars, the guardians and the guides on their particular individual path are well fed, are well attended to, and that the relationships that the if you visualize the path between practitioner or embodiment and relationship is always open and clean. That there's always a steady access between the person carrying the wisdom and the source of the wisdom, which in the way that I practice always trickles up from the other world, the green realm, right? It always kind of flows in from the world of spirit and is embodied and expressed here, only to flow back out again through the mystery of compost. So relationship is everything. And in fact, when we really get into the deep meaning of some of these titles, wizard, sorcerer, especially herbwise, herbalist, we find that at the root of all of these traditions is somebody who has a relationship of power, or usually relationships, plural. That somebody is an herbalist, and to me the definition of an herbalist is someone who has the secrets of the plants. The plants have revealed their mysteries in fullness to this person. That's why they're an herbalist. A sorcerer is somebody who has sorcerous relationships. They have relationships with beings that transcend the human experience or move beyond the seen, the named, and the formed, right? They're over the hedge. They're through the veil. They are reaching through the boundary that generally separates the worlds and drawing back wisdom, guidance, power, medicine, and magic in service of the community. Again, these are all service positions. These are all positions of stewardship that require the person to be incredibly humble and using all of the power and the blessings that they receive in service of their community and the common good, kind of nudging everything ever further into states of harmony. And this is why you do not see me use the word witch, right? Because traditionally, in all animist traditions, and especially those of my ancestors, witchcraft was seen as a malefic practice. We're not turning to witches for healing or for balm magics, that's just not the tradition. And I know that it's kind of taken on a different meaning now, but it's not one that I personally feel comfortable signing up with. So it's easier for me to lean into sorcery, and wizardry and wort cunning than witchcraft any day. So we have those three, again, very, very broad spectrum, very generalized definitions. There's one other thing that I think is really interesting about the human people who hold these traditions, and it is that we tend to value our space away from other humans. We value the quiet, we value solitude, and because it's in those places where we're able to nourish the relationships of otherness, that sometimes we have to get away from the village, get away from the noise, get away from the hustle in order to find the quiet where the still small voices of the plant spirits, the voices of the deities rustling in the trees can be heard fully and really, really taken in and digested. So the wizards, the sorcerers, the Herbwise are an interesting folk carrying a lot of experience, a lot of study, a lot of experimentation, a lot of respect and connection to those who have walked the path before them, seeing themselves as an embodiment of everyone who's come in their lineage before them, in service of community, showing up to do a job, to get things done, not to think about the craft or the art, but to do the craft and embody the art, and to put love and nourishment into their relationships of otherness is the main thing. And other than those core concepts, how it spills out, how it manifests itself in really beautiful idiosyncrasies and cultural specificities and traditional expressions are endless. It's a massive tapestry of what's possible and how things can unfold. But when we follow that little breadcrumb trail back into center, we find these commonalities in all of our extant traditions and our ancient traditions of wizardry, of the sorcerous arts, and of the Herbwise folk.